evening. I'll be fishing on the Broadhead. So,
Okay.
yeah. You familiar with the area?
I'm not. I've never been. I've been to the corner of the state up by Pittsburgh, but I was in Parkersburg, West Virginia.
Yep.
That's about as close as I've been. Evening out.
Have all the hot weather you guys got. In
Yeah.
fact, this morning was in the high 40s, believe it or not.
Wow.
But
That's a bit chilly for my liking.
yeah. So I must have been the first one on here, huh?
Yeah, yeah, you were it. You were it. You win the award for promptness.
I never know how it's going to work. Am I going to fuss around with it or whatever? So
Right. I just got to open it up and point and click as people show up.
Hey, Ethan.
How's it going, Eric?
How you doing, Ethan?
I'm well.
You got a
You gonna
nice
get down anywhere?
background. You
Oh,
got a
yeah,
nice background.
the manatees.
Have you been up hiking already, or?
No, we actually canceled the trip, so we're gonna wait until we go to Peru and on the 19th.
So you going to Peru too, or that's a Machu Picchu trip?
Yeah.
So I'm trying to repair a tire while I'm.
Oh, okay.
So that's why I'm making strange faces.
Been out on the water this week, Eric?
Yeah, last I think it was Sunday. I went. We launched at a Blackburn Point with my brother-in-law's new boat that he built.
Yeah.
And we went up through Donna Bay and went all the way up Shackett Creek.
Okay.
Or we went to the dam, and then we went under 75 all the way to, we couldn't really get much, or until the gator just popped out of the trees. And it was a lot of rustling in the trees, and all of a sudden this gator just came out of the trees into the water in front of us. So it spooked my brother-in-law a little bit.
All right. Is that called Cowpen Slough or something up in there?
I think on the one side, that's what it's called. I'm not sure, but there was a monster snuck in there, but I had the wrong fly tied on and didn't want to eat it. See, we got our speaker.
Yep.
Yeah, how's it going, guys? Everyone doing well?
Doing well so far.
yeah.
So far, so good.
Nice. That's good. Good to be here with you guys. Thanks for having me.
Likewise, we're excited. I was actually talking with one of the guys. He said he's one of your Patreon guys.
Oh, that's awesome. Man, that's perfect.
Ties a bunch of your patterns. I hope he comes on tonight. I expect him to.
Yeah, I had a few people message or somebody messaged me from the group and was like, "Hey, I heard you're going to be on the event." I'm like, "Yeah." So good to be here. Yeah, it's awesome. So everyone's been getting out fishing, huh? How's the weather over there?
It started raining this afternoon. Has been hot.
Is that right?
Yeah. So, Bob, you been out on the river?
I haven't. I've had boat issues.
Gotcha.
That'll keep you off the
You
water.
been out?
I went out with Ken earlier
Yeah.
and looking for some tarpon. We saw two,
Yeah.
but we really didn't get shots at them. But it was fun just to see them.
Yeah. Would you go out of Venice?
No,
Where'd you
we went close to where you've been going.
go? Okay. There at the Big Pass?
Yeah, big
Okay.
pass.
I was there today and saw 4.
Yeah, was there windy and big waves and stuff?
You
or-
know, it wasn't bad. The swells were pretty big, but you know, those long periods, so you could handle it pretty good. It was a little bit green, the water,
Huh.
so visibility was a little bit off today.
Did you go out in the pass there?
Yeah, yeah, just there to the end and got in line and waited.
Was
Then
there
we
a bunch
came
of
back
boats?
in. What's that?
Was there a couple other boats out there?
Yeah, they're about 6 or 7.
Wow. The day Ken and I went, there was nobody out there, but I think
Yeah.
the weather was way too rough.
Oh, okay.
So,
No, this morning was pretty good, but we didn't really see anything happening, so we came on in. I caught the biggest catfish I've ever caught on a fly.
that's fun.
Oh yeah, it drug the boat around.
Wow.
Heck yeah. I always cast a catfish when I see him.
Yeah,
I don't know why. I always cast at him.
I think they're just wonderful fish to
oh,
catch.
it's a fighting fish.
Yeah. I used to think saltwater catfish had more power than anything out there
Yeah,
until I caught a jack.
Yeah, Jack are pretty fun on the fly. It spun my brother-in-law's boat around when I had it on.
Yeah.
Joe,
You
did you,
get
did you
over
get out
20
today?
pounds, you're gonna be in for a battle.
Yeah,
If catfish would jump, they'd be something else.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Yeah, or if they had nicer colors on them instead of just gray and blue or whatever.
Yeah, and then if they didn't have slime and those spiky fins, hey, they'd be the
Yeah.
perfect fish.
They got a few hurdles to get over for sure, but I still cast at them.
Yeah.
So we
Nothing worse when
we
I'm
wait
trying to
on
catch a
people to
pompano
but
and you catch a freaking catfish and it kind of feels the same at the beginning. You're like, yeah, I'm on.
uh, Joe, how are things down your area?
Good. You know, not many trout, few snook here and there.
Yeah,
I've been out chasing the big fish, but they're tough. They've been real tough. Mostly off of Blind Pass
okay.
up to Minnesota.
Been out in the boat.
Yeah,
Been seeing quite a few tarpon out there.
I've been seeing not quite a few, but I've been seeing a good number.
Yeah.
Yeah. They don't seem to be in Charlotte Harbor that much. You know, they seem mostly to be outside. And in the passes. I mean, last week with there was that big rush in the pass and all the crabs flushed out. But I wouldn't go to Boca Grande in my life, depending on.
Yeah.
Somebody posted a hammerhead chasing a tarpon the other day. I don't know if it was on our site or one of the Florida sites. That scares the crap out of me if you're in a kayak and you see a hammerhead,
Yeah.
They had pictures of a hammerhead on shore, just about on shore on the TV
Yeah.
news. Yeah.
Jeez.
Well, anybody else got any fishy stories past week or two?
I'm waiting for my guide Ethan to take me out again.
I'll work on it.
Slacking.
Finding them. I got into some snook day before yesterday. Some big ones.
Nice.
Outgoing tide, the pass at Shell Key, between Shell Key and Fort DeSoto. And they were just chewing.
Got any pictures?
No,
But you didn't get it. You didn't land them.
no, I landed them.
Oh, you did. Just don't. You
Yeah.
don't want to show us.
Just don't want to show you. No, my wife usually carries the camera. She was up eating lunch, and I just walked down on a lark and started throwing it in. Caught a couple just right off the bat.
Wow.
I've seen them up there before, and I've never been able to get them to take anything. I don't think the tide was right, but that tide was just running out, and they were just taking anything you threw in front of them.
Any red tide up there, Ethan?
I didn't notice any. My daughter said she got a little headache, but I didn't notice anything. They've got a lot of spots on the map up in that area.
Yeah. We don't, there's
Did
no,
you
I
tell
didn't
him the
find anything.
story? Did you tell him the story about the babies behind the boat?
I have not. I've not shared that with anyone. Go for
Jim,
it.
we were fishing for big ones and we didn't see any. And we went behind his boat at night. There was probably 20 to 30 pound babies. And they were coming up like trout, eating something really small. And I can't believe I didn't film it. It was just amazing. It was a giant light. It would have come out really good. We were so intent on trying to catch the dang things. And my brother was there, trout, he's a trout guy. I got him. But
We
3
caught,
hours,
what,
right,
6
Ethan?
that night?
Ethan, weren't they there 3 hours pretty much?
Yeah, they just stayed. They were there.
That was insane.
I've been back twice and haven't seen that light on again.
I've been to Vamo like 10 times looking for babies. There's no bait, there's no babies, nothing. It's awful.
Yeah, I haven't-
I've got a fishing story about my friend Mike Perez. I see he's not on tonight, but he had just returned from Montana to his home in Indiana and has a pond out back, and he took a fly rod out to try to catch some bass and some bluegill out there. And we had been going through the north here with a cicada hatch. I don't know if you know about that. Every 17 years, the cicadas come out. It's crazy. But he had a cicada fly, and he tossed it out and got struck. And he said he fought for about 20 minutes and got in a 35-pound grass carp that he had put in the pond about 25 years ago. He put two of them in to control some vegetation. And he said the most amazing part was that he released the fish and then watched the fish take 2 naturals. So
Wow.
and it was on a 5-weight, 6-pound tippet. So
Jeez. What a
Wow.
battle.
yeah.
Well, I'll monitor the incoming.
I leave next week for Montana for 6 weeks.
Lucky man.
Maybe there'll be some fish up there. It's
Nice.
hot up there, 100 degrees up there.
Joe, where are you gonna be in Montana?
Livingston. I used to live in Livingston.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I'm heading up there Monday to outside Gallatin, like south of Bozeman. I'll be there for 8 weeks.
Really?
Yeah. So,
Well, we'll have to hook up out there because
Yeah, for
I
sure.
spend a lot of time, between Bozeman and Livingston. Hello. Did he just drop out?
I'm here.
Leonard,
All right. Yeah.
Joe, do you know about the one fly they do out there?
Yeah.
We're trying to incorporate
That's-
that.
That's
into our plan.
in what do you call it though? In Jackson.
Jackson Hole.
Yeah.
We're gonna try the same
We're
thing.
gonna try to do one, imitate them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we got all the great Bob Clauser's coming, Bob Popovich. No, just
Just,
us.
as long as George Anderson doesn't come, it'll be all good.
Who's he?
He owns Yellowstone Angler. Just
I
a
guess,
joke.
I guess he's off-putting.
Ken, did you do any good today?
I saw some. I was out in front of Albee Road, down at the Venice Jetty. And I basically just fished that area up through the jetty. I was hoping in the afternoon because there was a good outflow and it was a strong one. It was about a 3.3 tide going out that started around noonish. And I sat in that area and I was, just looking for fish. I only saw like one pod go through and they weren't really feeding. I think they were actually going inside. And when I was out, maybe a couple hundred yards offshore, I saw some strings go by further out. So I moved further out, but nothing came in close enough where I had a legitimate cast at anything. So I spent 6 hours enjoying the water. It was pretty calm out there today. So, I could see the fish from far off when they were moving, but not a lot of them there. But Jesse, you might shed some light on this. My thinking is that a lot of the fish are outside right now in deeper water, setting up for the spawn probably tonight. Would that be accurate?
Yeah, it could be. There's so many things that go into, when those fish are in shallow, when they're not. I mean, it's kind of hard to pinpoint exactly what's going on if I haven't been in the area recently to see, but that's a good guess for sure.
Yeah,
Full
because
moon.
it's a new moon, right, tonight? Yeah.
I think it's
So usually on the new and full, they're going to be out, spawning. So I'm gonna chalk it up to that. The fish weren't there.
Yeah, there you go. The fish weren't there.
Well, we've got a pretty good crowd here. I'm gonna go ahead and get us kicked off. I'd like to welcome to the Mangrove Coast Fly Fishers Zoom meeting, Captain Jesse Males. He's the captain in charge of Backwater fly fishing and 506 Outdoors. Jesse's native Floridian, but he's buttering his bread down in Costa Rica right now. And Jesse, how did you come to choose Costa Rica as a fishery?
Man, I really didn't. It's kind of hard to say, man. I'll be honest. I didn't choose it as a fishery as oh, I'm just going to go down there and start guiding. I sort of felt I'm a big Bible believing dude. I really felt like God wanted me to go down there. No really particular reason as far as I'm not involved in mission work or anything like that. So it was kind of strange, but I've always fished. So I was once I got there, I started fishing pretty heavily, really. And I was selling a lot of flies at the time. I've always kind of tied custom flies. And so I had that going, and then I kept posting fish pictures, and then more and more people were like, "Oh, you're in Costa Rica. Are you guiding? Are you guiding?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not guiding," for a few years. And then finally my good friend came down there with me, a guy I've known my whole life. So we were down there fishing, and same thing, people just kept asking us, "Are you guys guiding down there? What are you doing?" And finally we were just you know what, we should start guiding. And people are asking us to take them fishing, and we keep telling them no and stuff. So we met a really good friend, our friend Mark, who owns an outdoor store there, and he was kind of right on the same page with us. Huge fly fisherman, just and then we were all running around kind of exploring the options of what could we really guide people on, and it just evolved that way, sort of naturally. And so Mark had been in Costa Rica for 20 years now, so he knew all the ins and outs of setting up businesses and stuff like that. So we just dove into it, and it's been about 3.5, 4 years now, and we're running real tight. Obviously, COVID, we had 11 months of lockdowns, so it was tough as we had to cancel pretty much all of last year, but this year we're just bouncing back like crazy. And yeah, it's real good. We guide all over the country, both coasts, in the jungle. So it's a handful for sure, but it's been an amazing thing being able to just kind of explore all that for ourselves, and then open it up to, being able to show it to other people too.
Yeah, so I was actually in Costa Rica about 2 months ago, and I was looking for some flies and came across your website, and I was like, wow, this looks pretty cool. And so I went after some machacas,
Yeah, the machakas, right?
Yeah, that's an interesting fish. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so one of the species, it's really like if you live down there, this is like your favorite fish for sure. It's very pretty much accessible on a day trip from San Jose, so it's like pretty central, northern in the country, in the better rivers. But you can find them all over the place. And it's sort of like a cousin to piranha species. They eat everything that falls in the water, but they mainly eat stuff like fruits and flowers and insects that are falling out of the trees. So anything that hits the water hard kind of gets their attention. So the way we've started fishing for them is we ordered like 500 pine balls, little balls like this off the internet, off Amazon, and then sort of cut them down, put tarpon hooks in them, and spray painted them green to look like a fruit because they eat the rivers we fish. They eat a fruit called a chilamate that falls and it hits the water really hard. So throwing those wooden balls and smacking the water, I mean, they just come up and crush it. So it's really a lot of fun because it's all visual. It's not technical. You're not making long casts or nothing.
Jesse, how big are these fish?
A big one is like 8 pounds. If you've ever shad fished before or caught a shad, their body is very similar to that, but they have big piranha teeth, and the big ones are, it's river fishing, so they're pretty strong fish. They're constantly in the current. They're constantly migrating up and down the rivers due to the amount of water that's in the river. So these fish can go up and down, 20 miles, no problem. It's nothing for them to move around in a day. So it's a pretty diverse fishery, and it's, we float these rivers a lot like drifting a river out west. We do them on inflatable NRS rafts with frames. So like you could float the river and you're just casting sort of up under the trees, at the banks, in the cuts, behind any structure. And it could be really, really, really good fishing for them, but very heavily dependent on water because they like sort of like a higher, darker water. When it gets low and clear, a lot of the fish will go downstream into some of the bigger river systems. So you kind of want like a rainy, muddy water. It's like the opposite of trout, essentially.
So you sent me over a video on that fishery. I'm gonna share that for just a second.
Yeah, and this is a video we shot this maybe 3 years ago now, something like that. And this was a video that we were putting out videos like this all the time, and then essentially these are the type of stuff that people kind of were like, hey, can we come down and fish with you guys? And here we go.
Ooh.
Big teethus.
Is there any sound to this, Ethan, or no?
Is it, y'all not hearing the sound
No.
now?
None.
None. Will they hit a regular popper too, Jesse?
They'll hit a popper, but not so much while it's actively being popped across the surface. It's they really key in on the first hit on the water. If because the fruit, like fruit and leaves and all these types of things, when they hit the water, they don't move again. So they're used to things slapping the water real hard and then sitting still. So if you're working a popper across the top, they don't kind of count it as a food source most of the time. So typically it's just a really hard pop, and they're going to eat it the first second. They're lightning fast, very competitive. So when they're in a school, and something hits the water, they all go for it, and it's sort of a race. So
Jesse, are you putting water on the terminal end of your leader?
what's that?
Are you using wire at all?
We don't really use wire. Usually like we use short leaders, like pretty much straight 40 pound, and then you could put like 60 or 80 about like this before the fly. The wire, for some reason, they tend to see that for whatever reason, even in darker water. So we've found like 60-pound test is pretty good. Normally you'll hook them pretty well in the corner of the mouth. If they swallow the whole thing, then you could have a problem with, even with 80 pound, like they'll cut 80 pound pretty fast. So
I noticed y'all were on paddle boards there. Do y'all do float tubes or something else more stable for our kind of guys?
yeah, definitely. We do rafts, and we have like an NRS frame. It's just like floating a trout river or something. We just go on the paddle boards because that was originally how we started exploring a lot of the country, because you could inflate them, deflate them. We had backpacks for them. We could hike them in areas and explore places. So that's sort of how we prefer to do it. And it's just a little more mobile for us. But when we bring clients, we put them on rafts for sure.
So I was noticing when I was down there weren't really any other fly fishermen. Most everybody was bait fishing or dough balls, especially for those machacas.
Sure, yeah. You're not going to see a lot of fly fishermen there. Like, we're really the only people running any type of fishing service there. So the locals are going to be fishing with fruits or with, meat and bait and stuff like that. But there's not a lot of them, and the access on the rivers we fish is important. Like, there's really only a few access points to actually float the river. So a lot of those guys don't have rafts and things like that. So the locals are really limited to just fishing from the bank, and that kind of makes it good for us in a lot of ways.
Yeah. So what other fisheries down there do y'all highlight?
So we do the machaca, we do trout fishing because we have a pretty healthy population of rainbow trout in sort of the high central mountain range. So we do that. We guide for tarpon on sort of the border of Nicaragua and Costa Rica. It's a real famous place, or it was in the 80s, 70s, 80s, really. And then after that, it sort of fell off, but there were a few famous lodges down there, and they've since been kind of taken over by the jungle. But that's an insane tarpon fishery. One of the, I fished tarpon in Florida, and it's just the fishing there. In Florida, you're on the bow of a boat, you have a shot at a few fish in a day. It's a good day. If you land a fish, there you go. It's fantastic. Here, we're fishing sort of river mouth scenarios or open ocean. And a lot of times you'll just see the fish on the surface, like a school of tuna, and they'll be just full breaching, tarpon doing cartwheels, and you just run the boat up into them and throw into them, and you could hook up. Or you just dredge the river mouth where the Rio Colorado comes out, and it's dark water, but the dark water is sort of like the top 3 feet of the water column. So everything below that is like really clear ocean water. So you use really heavy line or lead core, and you get it down into that clear water, and you just pick up a ton of fish. Like, if the fishing's going on, like, it's nothing to triple up with everybody on the boat hooked up on fish. And it's really, really crazy. We just had a tour 2 weeks ago with 2 guys, and they fished 1 full day and then a half day, and they hooked 11 fish and landed 4.
Wow.
So I mean,
how big are the fish, Jesse?
They're all big. Like, we don't have any small fish. So like a small fish is like 70 pounds.
Whoa.
To like, you'll hook 120 is almost, you'll see every time you're there. We've hooked some like, you know, around the 150 mark pretty frequently. So it's all big fish. We're not sure what they do. Like they're all up in the rivers there for sure. They go hundreds of miles up those rivers, but they also the population there in the ocean side is likely migrating from Venezuela, Colombia up to the Yucatan is what we're guessing, because is sort of a fresh roll of fish through there all the time. And I've outside that river mouth it's got to be the largest congregation of tarpon on planet Earth. Like there's no other, I don't know any other place that could have more tarpon in one area. It's just absolutely crazy. I've never seen anything like it. So we're really fortunate to be able to run towards there.
Let me try this other video on the
There used to be some great snook in the surf there too, Jeff.
Right. Yeah. There's a place called Agua Dulce that's right up there, and they snook fish it, but there's been a lot of netting for the snook. So the snook population is down basically just from everybody netting up there. But yeah, it used to be an amazing snook fishery, and you could still catch them, but it's, you know, you're not going to get the really big ones anymore. They have a fat snook that have a season there, and they run up the river, and there you could catch a bunch of like 8 to 10 pound fish in the surf, or in the mouth to Samai Lagoon, which is a lagoon there. But it's mainly a tarpon scenario now. There are times where if it's off season, like it's very specific, like we pretty much fish May, September, and October there, just based around weather. And if you could go there, and you could hit it good throughout the year, because the fish are always there. It's just based on weather, because if the sea's real high, you can't get out the river mouth because it's a really shallow river. So if you can't get out, there are some places in the river and some back lagoons that you could fish the tarpon into. And we also have machaca in there, and a fish called a mohara, which is like a giant bluegill species. So there's things to do in there if you can't get out the river mouth. But when it comes to bringing clients there, we pretty much only book the months where it's sure you're going to be able to get out.
Isn't that one a bluegill with teeth?
The mohara doesn't really have big teeth at all. I mean, they have little cutters because they eat some like leaves and fruits and stuff like that too, but nothing that'll bite you or cut a leader or anything.
Hey, Jesse, if I could interject, is this on the east or west coast? I didn't catch that.
This is on the northeastern coast. It's right at the border of Nicaragua.
Do you know where the Rio Parasmina is?
Yeah, it's north of that.
All right. So we fish that.
It's a place called Barra, Colorado. It's where the Rio Colorado comes out. And
yeah,
yes,
they don't have the Army Corps of Engineers. So when you try to get out those inlets, there's waves coming in. It's kind of squirrely. We get a chase boat because of bull sharks and all that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And my other funny thing is, we went up a river, way up this river, and they gave us spinning rods and this big head and lure that goes zip, 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 like that, you know, with the two blades, one on the front, one on the back. And these fish with teeth would come out. Was it wapote? Something like that.
Wapote is, yeah, a rainbow bass. And they do have sort of like, they do have teeth. They have like it's a cichlid species. That's different than the mohara, but yeah, that's a really cool fish too. And there used to be a lot up in those rivers and lagoons. They've really done a number on those too, sort of netting them and stuff for food. So, but you could still catch them here and there for sure. They're really cool fish.
Yeah, they said they were chasing the lizards that fall out of the tree, the Jesus lizard that runs across the water or something.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly right. We got a lot of those, and those things will take off running across the river. And those lures with the propellers on the back just simulate that sound perfectly. So they love eating those things.
Wow.
And Yeah, that's an interesting spot because you have a lot of stuff going on in the freshwater, and then you also have all these tarpons just jam packed in the ocean side. So it's really, really cool. There's a number of river mouths like the whole Caribbean side from Rio Colorado to Parismina, Tortuguero, and all the way down in Manzanillo on the south end near Panama. There's tarpon on all those river mouths, but the one farther north where we've been fishing is by far the best one. It definitely has the most fish out of all of them. And then we do stuff in the ocean too on the Pacific side. So we have a lot of beaches, a lot of bill fishing going on, marlin, sailfish. We have rooster fish, obviously, so that's huge. People are always wanting to try and catch a rooster fish, and that's always something that's difficult. It's never easy to catch a rooster fish, especially with a fly rod. But we do inshore, offshore trips. We do kayak fishing trips with spinning rods, and then we also do sort of remote beach camping tours where we'll take people out to these beaches. That essentially have nothing built on them. It's just an empty beach. And we'll stay out there for 3-4 days and kayak fish, surf fish. And it's really, really fun. So there's a large variety of stuff that we're doing all over the country. We recently we do some really cool backpacking trips too, up into the mountains, to some real unique places. So we've done, at this point, we're sort of like a full-fledged tour company based on creating custom tour packages for people depending on what they want to do.
Are you based out of San Jose, basically? Then?
Yeah, exactly. My house is like 30 minutes from the international airport there, so we could reach any part of the country relatively, quick, at least in a day. Nothing's fast in Costa Rica with all the traffic and mountains and everything. So relatively fast is like 4 hours. So, and then I just started, I just picked up this job in Montana, so I'll be guiding there July and August this year. And then hopefully next year, it'll be more like June, July, August, September.
Who are you guiding with in Montana?
There's an outfitter called Gallatin River Guides.
Oh yeah, I know who they are. Yeah.
South.
Stop.
I had guided a guide that works for them a few years ago. And then when COVID happened and we had to cancel pretty much our whole year, he was like, oh man, you should come up and guide up here and all this. So I put it off last year because of travel and everything was crazy. So I decided to give it a go this year, and I'm hoping we could get it to stick. If I like the operation up there and I feel like it's a good spot, then I know I'll like fishing up there, but I'm kind of particular about who I actually do business with. So, if I'm going to be up there guiding with them every season, then I want to make sure it's the guys are good and everything. So it's a good opportunity. And then I'll be in Colombia for February and March next year, doing the whole peacock bass thing and working with an outfitter there. So it's sort of going to get to where I'm doing like Costa Rica, Montana, and Colombia. And then I do a lot of like photography projects for places too. So that's sort of a whole nother aspect to what I do, aside from guiding fly fishing, is going and doing photo video projects, whether it's private. Like next year, I'm going to Africa to film some guy's black marlin trip for him. So it's like I do a lot of private work like that, and then also stuff for companies and things like that.
What about the fly tying
on that trip?
What was that?
Will he let you have a rod on that black marlin trip?
Oh, there's no doubt I'm going to catch something for sure. Yeah, I've fished with a guy a number of times before, and he always gets tired, and he's like, "Oh, you take the next one or something." So, yeah. And then I still like the fly tying thing. That's sort of like how this all started for me, right? It was like I started tying flies, started selling flies, and that was really the start of it all. Guiding really wasn't in my mind at the time. And teaching people how to tie flies is something that I'm insanely passionate about. So it's something that I'll always do in that regard. I have a ton of fly tying videos on my YouTube channel, and that was just a way of not giving back, but it's nice to show people the things that you've discovered. That's sort of even with the guiding thing for me. It's like I just love showing people these types of things, because when I started fly fishing, and for years after, I didn't know anybody that did it. I didn't have friends that fly fished. I didn't, I was living in Orlando at the time, and I'd go over there and talk to TJ and them at Orlando Outfitters, and they were super nice dudes in there. I think there was Barrett was working there. I think this guy Chris was in there. It was like a lot of nice guys in there, and they were sort of like standoffish with me for whatever reason. And I just remember being like, man, like I'm just gonna have to do this by myself, and just bought a fly rod, started fishing the Indian River Lagoon on a kayak, like didn't just kind of figured it out. It took a number of years to where I knew what flies to tie, I could tie, and kind of had it all figured out, could cast good and all that. So it was like, once I got to a certain level, it was really important for me to just turn around and start, with whatever limited skills I had, show people, that it isn't that hard and to get into, because at least, 12 years ago, when I kind of started fly fishing, it was like a very closed off thing, at least where I was. And it was like, if I could take the edge off of it for some people and get more people into the sport from spin fishing or whatever they're coming from, then I think there's benefit in that.
Well, your fly tying videos have really, really helped me. I've tied like, I don't know, 50 of your flies. Yeah, I got
yeah, there you go.
That's that one, and
yeah.
I don't know if you can see that one. And then this is the newest one. That's the bluegill fly.
Yeah. Have you fished it?
Yeah, I did, and it worked out pretty good. Some of the little impoundments here.
Yeah, it's awesome. The fly tying thing is definitely something that is sort of always going to be with me and be a part of whatever I'm doing, for sure.
Do you have a favorite fly?
For what fish?
Or I guess we're just tying, or even just
tie. Oof. I really like tying shrimp flies for some reason. Shrimp flies are something I really like to tie. I've been tying a fly. I just fished it in Belize about a month ago. I call it the hippie shrimp, and it's just a little shrimp fly, super fishy looking. But I've done that for a number of classes, sort of online tying groups and stuff that I've done, and everyone seems to enjoy it. It's a really fishy fly, redfish, bonefish, really anything that's gonna eat a shrimp is gonna eat it. So it's really sort of on my mind when I sit at the tying bench now.
Do you have a favorite snook fly, or?
Yeah, snook, man. I mean, it's snook off the beach. Snook off the beach, sort of a number 2 SL12 with white craft fur and tan on the top. Super simple. Maybe a big eye on the front of that. If the fish are spooky, that thing typically is going to catch them. It's like those simple patterns like that are super non-invasive. The fish don't care. They land soft and they just have movement. I think that's sort of like, if I had a tying style, I'm sort of just looking for something that's going to get into the water and be there without sort of the fish even second guessing it, So any type of small minnow pattern for snook, a gurgler, if it's early or late in the afternoon, a gurgler is awesome.
Before you even a snook on the dock bites, do you have a favorite? I mean, I've been doing like the Schminnows or something like that.
Yeah. Schminnows work super good. That's another spot where just like, if you did a Schminnow, but instead of the marabou, you put craft fur off the back, that seems to work way better than the marabou, for me at least. And then, yeah, sometimes you can get them on gurglers too with the dock light, but you got to see how they're acting. If they're real skittish, then you don't want to do that. If they're sort of eating everything, then, you know, something, I tie a fly called a fathead floating minnow, and it's sort of like craft fur tail with like a fox body, and then the head is sort of like stacked foam, so it just pushes water. It doesn't pop like a gurgler or a popper, but it's sort of like if you've ever seen finger mullet swimming high and they're just like kind of pushing water. They're not like popping or anything, they're just like pushing. It sort of simulates that, and that works really well too. If you bring that across a dock light on the surface, they'll usually come up and eat it.
Thanks.
What's your favorite target?
Species to target?
Yeah, species.
Man. Probably just because of where I started and growing up and everything. I love catching redfish. I like the whole sight fishing redfish, you know, in particular. It's the visual aspect of it's awesome. And, you know, there's some really great spots, South Texas I've been to. There's great spots all over Florida, obviously. I've spent a lot of time all my family lives in Crystal River, Homosassa. And the flats outside of there are still gin clear because of all the fresh water coming out of the rivers. It's like the last frontier really, but it's a challenging fishery, and being up there in gin clear water with grass or rocks or whatever, it's beautiful fishing them up there. So that's sort of my favorite thing to do. But I love it all, man. Like tarpon, it's like you start thinking and then you're like, well, no, I really like tarpon or bonefish or something. So it's hard. I like it all. I think it all has its place. Like there'll be times where if I'm fishing the ocean a lot, man, I'm like, I gotta go catch a trout, you know. And luckily in Costa Rica, we could do, you know, I could catch a marlin in the morning and catch a trout in the afternoon.
So do you put together trips to Costa Rica where you can actually do that?
Yeah, if someone wanted to, totally. The Cal River is about 3 hours from a place called Capos, which is Central Pacific. Hot spot for billfish. So you could easily wake up in Capos, go out on a morning session, catch a billfish, drive back, get in the car, go catch trout in the afternoon. It's kind of crazy.
Ethan, you're thinking that's a good challenge to do now?
Yeah, so like it's a new Grand Slam.
Yeah, there's rumors of a guy, you know, wealthy guy, but when I got there were rumors of a guy being up in Barra where we tarpon fish and catching a tarpon, getting on the helicopter, flying up to the mountains, catching a trout, and then flying out to his boat that was waiting for him in the ocean and catching a billfish all on the same day. So it sounds like trash talk to me, but I guess if you got a helicopter and a yacht waiting for you in the ocean, it's actually possible.
Yeah, do whatever you want at that point.
Yeah, I guess at that point, right?
So I'd like to try to show this tarpon video real quick. I changed my audio setting, and I think I might have it.
Yeah, let's check it out.
So give me just a second to pull that up. And if it doesn't,
Planet like this.
Can y'all hear that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Come up, go up to the lake, then come into groups and eat in society. And
Woo, baby.
Never seen that many tarpon in one area where we would go stop the boat, make a cast, and we were hooking up instantly.
Wow.
heck yeah, bro. Yeah.
Thanks,
And only one rod lost in the process.
I'm so stoked right now. Oh, that was my second one of the day. And I don't know. I have no words because I'm just so pumped, so excited. Oh. Goodness, we get out of the way.
Nice, brother. Got him. Only took one rod. Good amount of time. A little tired. But got a tarpon finally on the fly.
Oh boy, Mark. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah. Sometimes we'd all hook up. We'd triple up right there on the boat, and it would just be absolute mayhem everywhere.
Killing it.
4 for 5. Nice. It's our second afternoon out here. And I don't know how many we've caught today, but we're running around finding schools, feeding on the surface. And I got a good one on right now. And it's just been fish after fish after fish. It's absolutely crazy.
Carbon in Costa Rica from Barrio Colorado. The best carbon in the coast, the whole coast. They're the best place to fishing carbon.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, so that's
Get further.
that's a video we did last year, sort of like on a whim. We filmed all that in essentially 2.5 days out there. It was just like the whole time we were on the water, we were just catching fish the whole time. There was no like somebody was hooked up, and then while someone's hooked up fighting a fish on the bow, someone's hooking up with one on the back. It was just like absolutely crazy. And I wish I could show it to you guys, but we've been working on sort of like a larger film project, sort of showcasing the history of the area, and bringing it sort of into modern day, as to where we find the fishery now. And sort of the history of the lodges that used to be there, all the types of people that used to come down and fish. I mean, pretty much all your saltwater fly tackle was really developed down there. Like Lefty Cray, Dan Blanton, Bob Clouser would go down there, Stu App, Mark Soeson, all these guys, everybody would fish down there in like the 70s. And coming into early 80s really, and then it sort of started to fall off, but it was a mecca. There was a lodge called Casa Mar that was run by a guy named Bill Barnes, and this guy Peter Gorinsky, who is like sort of like a legend in Central and South America, who actually became a good friend of mine because he lives in Costa Rica, and it ended up I lived like 15 minutes from his house. So it was sort of interesting in that regard. So yeah, the film project we're doing right now is very, very cool. We're probably going to be trying to submit it into some film festivals for 2022, because it just tells sort of an untold story of the area. A lot of people have no idea that there was even you know, this mecca of tarpon fishing like it was, but it was really something back then. And we went to the place where the Lodge Casamar used to be, and the jungle just took it over completely. You can't really even tell a lodge was ever even there from the shoreline of the river. It's just completely overgrown. So it's an interesting story, and I think one we're showcasing. And there's some just amazing tarpon action in that that makes that video you saw right there kind of look like a bad day on the water, believe it or not. It's a pretty insane thing. Like, we have our season this September, October is looking pretty good with groups. So we're happy. We're hoping travel stays open, and you know, we can keep doing what we're doing. So
are you hooked up with some B&Bs, or do you have a place, or what's the deal with that?
yeah, we have 2 for lodging there. It's very remote to get there. I mean, you can't drive there. You have to take a boat to the river, and then a car to the river, take a boat down to the coastline. And there's a guy who owns a smaller hotel. It's like 5 rooms, has air conditioning. They cook amazing food there. So we'll fish like a morning session, an afternoon session, and then we you know, get our 3 meals a day in. If you need to take a shower, stuff like that. And then there's another one. There's really 2 places in the area that we stay. Both are well accommodated. So yeah, it's safe and secure. We've spent a lot of time there now. So, you know, we're working with the best peoples in the area to make these things happen and make it safe to bring people in there, because it is a far out place, you know, and I mean, it is what it is, but there's, you know, a lot of drugs come through that part of the country. So it's sort of one of those things where they know they're used to having fishermen because of the history of the area. So if you're there to fish, you know, make sure you just fish. Don't get caught up in all the other stuff going on.
So what are your group sizes for those trips?
Yeah.
Group size, like we're doing, obviously like 6 is very manageable. But we are doing, in October, we have a group of 8. And then which may turn into 10. So really, like 10 is pretty much a cutoff for us as far as groups, just for housing, logistical purposes. We don't like to bring more than 10 people in there at a time, and that's full. We run 2 people per boat, so you're gonna have a local captain in a center console like the one we're fishing on, and 2 anglers in it, so yourself and one other person.
And how many days do those trips run?
It's a minimum of 3 full days. I would suggest doing 5, because it's going to take, depending on what time you fly in, like typically if you flew in, you know, let's just say on a Sunday, you know, if you don't get out of the airport early, then you're going to have to wait in San Jose and then leave the next morning to head out to the area. And that's going to take about 5.5 hours to get there from San Jose. So then you typically can fish that afternoon. So if you came in on a Sunday, you'll fish Monday afternoon. Then you could fish Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then fly out Friday or that Saturday. So really, like, it's ideal to come with like planning to have a day of travel on each end, and sort of lose a half day on each end too to travel, just because it's a pretty remote area. So, you know, if you gave yourself 7 days, you'd pretty much get 4.5 days of fishing.
Ethan,
when those lodges.
So Ethan's asking all these questions because he's in charge of the outings committee. So I'm going to see something on the newsletter about a trip to Costa Rica soon.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes, what kind of pricing are we talking about?
It's going to vary with group size, obviously. But you could expect somewhere, and depending on the length of the stay, because it's very customizable depending on if we're trying to do a quick 3-day or a 5-day or something like that. But I think relatively speaking, we provide travel. Obviously, all the meals are included. Gear is not included, obviously, because it's tarpon gear and it breaks like every time you go out. So realistically, you're looking at, depending on the group size, between 3,000 and 4,000 a person, between everything.
Okay.
Is beer included?
What's that?
Beer included?
It can be if it's special requested, for sure.
Yeah, all right. So
Oh, a 6-pack a day, yeah.
if you're just busted after day 3, would you change gears and do something else?
Yeah, totally. I mean, that's common, right? Like you know, you can only catch so many tarpon in a day physically, and and when it comes to the other options in the area, like I said, we could go check some of the freshwater spots in some of the lagoons. We could also switch completely. If you bring a 5-weight, we can catch a bunch of mojaras. We could look for machaca, fish small snook and stuff in the rivers too. So there's options. If you wanted to just putz around in the jungle and do that type of stuff and take a rest day, you could still get out and fish and enjoy yourself.
Jesse, if someone was to make that trip, what types of, or how many rods would you suggest they bring, and the weights?
Yeah, so you're fishing only 12 weights for sure. If you wanted to bring if someone had like a sailfish, like a 14 weight or something, you could even bring that. My friend Mark, he fishes a 14 weight. The problem we have is in Florida, you hook a fish on the flat. You're fighting it on the flat for the most part, 15, 20 feet of water max, mostly, unless you're in like Boca Grande or something in a pass or whatever. But we have, in the ocean side, you're going to hook a fish in, if you're right outside the river in 15 feet of water, sometimes less, but he's going to pull you out, and then he's going to be in 60 feet. So the problem we have sometimes with people is, and it's a learning curve, no one's used to fighting tarpon in 60 feet of water on a fly rod. So lifting a fish that's that deep and he's going on the boat, he's doing all these weird things, snaps rods, I would say you want a minimum of 3 rods. And then we don't really throw floating line. Sometimes we'll have a popper on if the fish are busting on the surface. It's cool to have a popper rod. But mostly we're fishing full sinking lines, and sometimes even lead core, which is like can be used for a variety of purposes, but we use it as like a 15-foot leader section that just helps pull that fly down deep and get sort of out of that dark water that you saw on the top, because under that is clear water, and the idea is to get that fly down into that clear stuff.
Like a shooting head.
Yeah, exactly. Sure. Exactly. Yeah, that sinks real fast. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So if you were going to do more than just tarpon, though, you would want maybe a 5, 6, 7 for.
I think bringing a 6 weight for everything in the river would be perfect. In reality, a 5 weight's fine too. You're throwing little poppers at the shoreline, at branches. So it's sort of technical casting in that regard, but the fish are going to be smaller. It's like a bass, catching a bass, but a lot of fun.
Floating lines.
Yeah, that would be all floating lines in that sense. And we did hook a baby, we hooked like a 5-pound tarpon doing that just last time we were there, and saw a bunch of schools rolling. So we don't have baby tarpon here, like as a rule, because we just don't have any mangroves or anywhere for them to really take root. So but in these lagoon systems, we do find them up there. So sometimes you'll hit little baby tarpon on the poppers and stuff too, which is a treat.
Mhm. Do you book to your?
Jesse, what kind of peacock bass are you catching in Colombia?
We're going to a place called Mataven that has like both types. It has the butterflies and then it has the really like the 20-pounders. So we're going to be fishing both, and then we're going to be fishing Payara, also, which is like the vampire fish with like the really big two big teeth. And that's going to be cool. I'm really going to be filming a lot on this one, but the last 3 weeks I'll get a chance to fish pretty heavily. And then we'll also be checking a place on the Pacific coast for sailfish and roosterfish and tuna and all that stuff. So there's actually a lot to do in Colombia. It's definitely, I mean, it's a big area, but it's also has some pretty remote areas that are still pretty virgin in a lot of ways. So that's cool. Not a lot of damage done to those fisheries, especially up in the river systems and the headwaters. So it should be really, really cool. There's a guy, I don't know if you're familiar with a guy named Tom Enderlin. He runs a guide business in Costa Rica too called Release Fly Travel, but he fishes mainly a place called Caño Negro, which is like some flooded lagoon systems and stuff, but he's a real nice dude. Friend of mine. He's gonna be in Colombia with me. So is one of the guys in that tarpon video, Micah, who's my business partner there at 506 Outdoors. So it's gonna be a good time for sure. And we'll be working on a film project there for about a month, in cohorts with some other big groups that's probably going to be in the fly fishing film tour next year as well. So, or for 2023, 2 years out.
Jesse, it sounds like September, October of this coming year, you're pretty well booked up. Are you booking anybody for the following year yet?
Yeah, we have a group for the following May. We do have some spots in October, like early October, and then
This year or next?
This year. And I could check, but I think depending on how long you want to come, and how many people in the group, I think like the 3rd week of September, I want to say, yeah, we're booked up until the 19th of September. So whatever that is, yeah, like the 3rd to 4th week of September. I know we have some gaps there depending on the group size. So there's a few spots here in those 2 months, and then pretty much you'd have to wait till May of next year to come. And then there's a window there too, like we say May, but sometimes the last 2 weeks of April, it's perfect weather. So, things can vary too sometimes with the weather there. But any time in the month of May tends to be perfect weather.
Okay.
And that's really what it's all based on. I probably said earlier, but it's like the fish are there all year. You're always having fish in that ocean, in that river mouth. There's never a time of year where there's not fish. It's just whether we can access them safely or not, because they flip boats in there, and it's not, you want to be able to go out when it's like a lake and you don't have to worry about jumping to 7-foot swells, at the river mouth or nothing.
So if you had a trip planned and the weather was an issue, what would you do as an alternate?
Fish in the lagoon systems in the river. Go target those mojaras, machacos, snooks, and then there are tarpon there in the lagoon too. They're just harder to catch. So it'd be, targeting those rolling fish in the lagoons, or fishing some of those other species and hoping we can sneak out the river mouth at some point. Typically you're not going to have any time in those months, like to go there and have 5 days where you can't get out the river, is not likely. If you have to lose a few days because of weather, that happens, but then we just go target other stuff.
Yeah.
But really we focus on those months specifically because of the good weather, and as a rule, you're safe in those windows.
That's good.
Jesse, another question if I could. So as far as setting something up, it would be directly with you, is that correct?
Yeah, so you can email me, obviously outdoors at backwaterflyfishing@yahoo.com, or you can contact 506outdoors.com, and you could just send an email there. I typically have Micah, my business partner, and Mark handling emails, but they can get you set up totally. And then obviously if you contact them, let me know, because if any of you guys come, I'd love to be there on that trip to guide you guys. So
Great.
yeah, definitely, we'd be in touch in regards to that. So they talked to me about pretty much everything that happens around tarpon season. So even if I'm up here in Montana over the next few months, I'm going to be in communication with those guys every week. So yeah, we'll be able to get stuff worked out. And yeah, there's a lot to do. I mean, there's, depending on how long you want to stay, I mean, there's a lot. Obviously it's a diverse country, so you could do, like, we have a group coming down, some friends of mine from the Tampa area, the second week of September, and we're tarpon fishing, and then getting back to our house, and then going out to do a beach camping trip right after. So like, there's a way to sort of hit both coasts depending on how much time you have, allocated for the trip, kind of thing. So keep that in mind too. If you wanted to get sort of a bigger taste, you could even do the tarpon and then do like 2 days of machaca fishing right at the end, and that's close to San Jose. So that's doable too in sort of a week's time, 7-day period.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I would presume that there's nonstop flights out of Miami to San Jose.
Yeah, Miami, San Jose direct, Orlando to San Jose direct.
Yeah, JetBlue flies that.
Yeah, JetBlue. There's almost all of them, like JetBlue, United, Americans. I mean, Spirit runs flights. I know that. Yeah, there's no shortage of flights straight to San Jose. I mean, it's 3 hours from Orlando. It's 2 hours and 50 minutes or something. So it's really accessible in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not a lot of travel involved.
So Eric, you in for an outing?
It sounds pretty good. Haven't missed too many of them, so.
And did you see that, Ethan, that I think maybe I sent you the video with the rooster fish and all that?
Yeah, I've got it. I can throw it up there real quick.
Because that's an option for a tour also that we'll do. It's takes place sort of southern Pacific, about a 6-hour drive from San Jose towards the Panamanian border. It's a place called Golfito, and it's sort of like a lot more remote than Quepos or Papagayo in these places, but it's really just a ton of rooster fish, and we try and tease them up behind the boat with like poppers or throwing bait out, and they'll all come up behind the bait, and then you kind of do a bait and switch, and when they're on the bait, you pull it out just like you would a billfish. It's essentially just like you do a billfish, but you're right behind the breakers and you're teasing up rooster fish. And it's a lot of fun. Like you could raise 100 roosters in a day.
It's hard for me to believe that I've been grinding it out in Costa Rica for over 5 years. And while the fishing hasn't always been the best, I've made it a point to surround myself with not just the best anglers I can find, but also some of the best human beings as well. Here are some highlights from a recent trip with some of the raddest dudes out there.
Oh my God, he's so bad. Woo, yeah. Wow. He'll turn around. All right. Oh, yeah. Boom, 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 boom. And stop. Stop, 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 stop. Let it sit, let it sit, let it sit. He's gonna eat it. He's gonna eat it at the drop. He's gonna eat it stick. Like leave it, leave it. Leave it. Yo, look at this beast. Yo. All right, we're gonna let him go. Bro, let me get some. That was ridiculous. Oh my God. That was crazy. So pumped up. Nice. Unbelievable. Whoa! Yeah, right. Baby. I can't believe that just happened. All right, let's go have a beer. All right. Yeah.
A funny thing about that big snapper I caught at the end was one of the guys there, Federico, he's like the IGFA representative for Costa Rica. So we land that big snapper and we saw him, you know, obviously swimming around on the dock light, and we thought just because of the size of it, we're like, oh, that's a Cubera snapper, like maybe it's 20 pounds or something. Nobody was thinking that it could be any type of record. So I grabbed the 11 weight off the boat, and obviously I catch the fish, and we measure it, you know, or we weighed it and all this stuff. And just because we wanted to know, it was like 25.5 pounds or something on the scale. We let it go. And then we're all like looking at the photos later. We're like, guys, that's not a Cubera snapper. Like, what the hell is wrong with us? It's obviously not a Cubera snapper. And like, this is a Colorado snapper. So then Federico's like, oh, damn, like, that's probably a world record. So we look it up and it beat the world record by like 1.5 pounds or something. And we didn't, none of us had the information. Like, we didn't have the measurements. We had the weight, but not the measurements. And then even if we had the measurements, my leader wasn't like IGFA regulated. So it was just like a mess. And we're all kind of like beating ourselves because like he's the IGFA rep. We're all like, accomplished fishermen. We should have known better. And we just, I don't know. We were just probably also stoked to see the fish on the surface like that, because you don't see them, those big ones too, you don't see them up high like that. So it was like, I grabbed the rod as fast as I could and casted, you don't know how long he's going to be on the top. So it was really funny. We were all beating ourselves up about it afterwards, but it just one of those things that happens, I guess.
Yeah, you got the experience. That's the one that counts.
Oh yeah, I know. I mean, we got the experience. Luckily, we had the cameras there and stuff, so it was crazy.
It's another fish tail.
Jesse, I've really enjoyed this evening and learning about this fishery. Does anyone else have any questions, comments, or anything?
Outstanding job, Jesse. Very, very well done.
Yeah. We really
thanks for coming out, Jesse.
Yeah.
No, of course. Anytime you guys need to have me back for anything, let me know, man. I really appreciated it. It was awesome. And if you guys, anyone wants to get in touch with me, I'm sure Ethan has all my information, but feel free to reach out.
Jesse, I can pretty much say that instead of seeing us as bobbleheads, at some point you'll see us in person.
Yeah, I really hope so. I really hope so.
You
And
might get a few extra YouTube hits.
yeah, there you go. Exactly. Yeah. Subscribe to the YouTube, all that jazz.
Really?
Can I slip a question in real quick, or is it too late?
No, go ahead.
Hey, sorry guys, let me introduce myself. I'm Patrick. I'm new. This is my first meeting with the club.
Welcome.
Jesse, I've been watching your YouTube channel been subscribed for about 2 years or so, and you definitely inspire me in tying. I just moved back to Florida a couple of months ago, and I've been hot on it, trying to catch everything I can. Busted off a redfish a couple of months ago, and so I can't put that one on the list. I love your candy corn crawler.
Yeah.
Awesome tie. And I know that you recommend the black clouser, but what other redfish flies do you recommend here for Florida?
Yeah, definitely that fly, the hippie shrimp that I have on the YouTube too. That fly, when the water's real clear, like Tampa Bay, it's really good in Tampa Bay. And it's really good, you know, Crystal River, Homosassa, Chassahowitzka, anywhere it's clear and the fish are scared or a little finicky.
That
fly works super well, and the way it's designed, it'll typically ride hook point up as long as you have like at least a 12-pound leader, sometimes less than that, even like a 10. It has no problem turning over. So it's really just a great natural looking pattern. And I've been fishing a lot every chance I get, redfish, Texas and Florida, and then I just fished it in Belize last month.
On that bonefish trip, or?
Yeah, that's all I used the whole time I was there, was that fly. And I mean, it's bonefish, so like not the best fish to test the fly on, because they'll eat just about anything if you give it to them right.
All right.
But that fly definitely is one that I'm really stoked about.
Okay.
And I don't know if I have any more of those candy corn crawlers on my fly shop. My fly shop's pretty much completely out now, but I did the company Rainey's that makes flies. They're going to be mass producing that one and a few other patterns of mine. So hopefully sometime this year, those will be out, so I could just kind of still get those flies out to people that want them. People ask me to tie them, and I'm like, I can't tie them. I'm running around like a madman all the time now. So it's, it's a good fly. That candy corn crawler is probably, you know, it's been the top redfish fly for me for a long time.
And what color do you prefer?
It's like an orange tan combination that just is perfect, you know. So many.
And the green one, the chartreuse one too.
Yeah, definitely. The green one, like I fished Louisiana like maybe 3.5 years ago, and it was like sort of like tannic kind of water. Like it wasn't like murky, but it was like dark water. And that chartreuse one just works so well in there. It's crazy. So yeah, like the way a lot of Florida water now, you know, that used to be clear is murky now. So and a lot of that chartreuse color definitely comes in handy.
Cool.
You're not sold out on that one.
What was that?
You're not sold out on that one.
No, I'd probably not. I had tied so many flies, like that shop right there, whatever's in stock. When I started getting super busy, I'd sit down for a month or whatever and tie as many flies as I possibly could, and then mail them to my friend in Tampa. And then when I got orders, he would mail them out for me. And so whatever's on there is sitting at my buddy's house in Tampa, ready to get shipped. So it's kind of funny. But it's crazy. There's a fly, there's a fly on there called the Poppin' Flat Shrimp. It's like a realistic gurgler type fly. And when I first went to Costa Rica, my friend Micah, who guides with me, he was like seeing me tying flies one night because we were going to go fishing or something. And he was like, dude, you should sell that fly. And I was like, dude, nobody wants to buy my flies, man. Like that's ridiculous. no one's gonna buy these things. Like I'm just tying, we need to go fishing. I'm tying flies. That's what happens. Cause like when I started fly fishing, I thought everybody tied flies. I didn't know, it wasn't until after I started meeting people that did it and that I realized, wow, no, a lot of people don't tie flies, you know? And it was funny. And it all started from my friend being like, you should sell that. And then I started selling it, you know, it was just kind of funny, but yeah. And then now I'm, you know, from selling a fly to running that guiding business, you know, I'm fortunate enough to be able to guide in Montana this year and then Colombia next year. So it's just like, yeah. And then all the film projects and stuff, photography things I've been a part of so far. It's been a wild ride. I'm super blessed, super fortunate to have had these experiences and share them with people for sure.
Well, it's a lot better than being locked down like you were on some of those videos.
Yeah, I had it rough there, man, for a little bit. I'm not gonna lie, it was 11 months of canceled all my business for the year, for the foreseeable future. And that was a rough one. I started filming Spanish cooking shows in San Jose. Just didn't make money. I mean, it was hard for sure, but I'm super fortunate to be bouncing back from all that right now.
Yeah, it's great.
Certainly. I really appreciate you guys having me on. It was great talking with you guys, and yeah, hopefully we'll be in touch.
Will
Yes,
do.
yeah.
We really appreciate
Great
it.
job.
Thanks, Jess.
You're welcome. Welcome.
See you guys next time, next round.
Take care.
Ethan,
Hey,
did you
Mike.
mention about next month's meeting already, I assume?
What's that?
Did you mention earlier on about the next month's meeting?
No, I didn't. Next month, we're live.
Live, in person.
Live.
Garden Club.
All right.
Everybody there. On the Wednesday, it's back to Wednesday next month.
It's on a Wednesday, 28th. All right. Hope to see you all there.
I'll be in Montana.
Yeah, me too.
Hey, Mike.
Should be back by then.
Hey, Mike,
Yes.
I shared your grass carp story before you got on. when we
Oh,
were
yeah.
discussing it.
I had cicadas running out my ears here. I mean, it was unbelievable. Tens of thousands of them. Just on
How
my
do you sleep?
Oh, I could send you a video. The sound was actually they're much louder during the day than at night.
Okay, there you go.
At night it's the tree frogs.
Uh,
But yeah, we had them. They're starting to wind down now, but for a month it's just been unbelievable.
yeah. Hey, could I ask a question of the people that are still on? I'm just curious, how many people would want to make a trip to Costa Rica? Raise your
I'd
hand
go.
if you're interested. So I'm seeing at least 5 or 6. I think we got a shot, Ethan, putting
Yeah, I think so.
a 10-person party together.
Yep.
And we'll chat about it.
All right. We'll put that
All
one
right.
in the works.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Night, everybody. See you
Night.
next time.
Adios.
All right, yeah, yeah. Bye.